Hey guys, hello everyone. Very warm welcome back to my channel. From today onwards, we'll be starting with a new topic that is of judiciary, a very important topic. Um, so this is in continuation to the previous videos that I made. I've already covered a lots and lots of topics relating to Indian polity and constitution, and now we are coming to the another aspect of Indian constitution system, a very important part, a very important organ, that is judiciary. So I'm going to discuss it comprehensively, complete analysis, and I am not sure if second part is going to come or not, but we'll see accordingly how long it goes. If it goes for a very long time, so then I'll create a second part of judiciary only, so we might be able to cover it within the two parts. Before starting, for all the people who are new here, hello everyone, my name is Avan and this channel is Avan Onju. So, we are preparing free UPSC topics, and we are having comprehensive study and comprehensive discussion, as well as notes material would be dictated to you, everything in this particular video, and you can watch that video to complete the whole of the topic. I've already covered many of the topics of Indian constitution, of bilateral relations, on internal security, and many of the things I've already covered, so you can check all of them out, and they're completely free of cost. You don't have to pay anything for watching. You can watch it anytime, anywhere, and completely free it is. Only thing I want you all is to just go right now and subscribe to my channel, so it gives me motivation to create more of the videos, and I get to know that yes, you people are liking the videos and you people are looking forward to more of the videos. At the same time, if you understood well and you liked the video, so just leave a like for me as well, so that I get to know, and share it with the friends who need it, who also want to um, study these topics. Okay, so without any further ado, let's begin with the topic of judiciary, a very important topic. Okay, so before I start the judiciary, I would like to just make a distinction of our judicial system with, like, the Indian judicial system with the judicial system of United Kingdoms. Okay, so let me make a quick distinction between both of them. So when I talk about the Indian judicial system, so it is a unified judiciary. Okay, so it is a unified system, and why I am saying unified, you'll get to know when I talk about the UK system. So it is a separate system. Okay, like it is having two different kinds of courts for the center and the state. So central and the state are having completely different courts. Okay, and hence you can say these are the federal courts. Whereas when we talk about the Indian courts, so they are unified. That means state are not having any kind of separate court, and there is a unified code for state as well as the centers. Okay, as we all know, the how the apex court is at the top. You know now how this series goes. Okay, Supreme Court, then we have high courts. Okay, then we have the subordinate courts. Okay, so we are going to cover all of them. We are going to know all of the functions and all of the various subdivisions within these courts. Okay, so first, we know that we have only one Supreme Court, so there is no subdivision in that. Okay, and let us talk about the subdivisions of a High Court. Okay, for this I would like to remove what all I have written on the slide. Okay, so let us study about the subdivisions of a High Court. So when I talk about a High Court, so High Court are basically divided into two different kinds of courts. Okay, first one is called as the Metropolitan Court, Metropolitan Court, and the other one is called as districts. This is called as district and central courts, district and sessions court. Sorry for my sometimes I just pronounce it wrong. Sorry for that. Yeah. So districts and sessions court. Okay, so these are the two different kinds of courts under high courts. Now these are further divided into, of course, the criminal cases and the civil cases would be heard differently. Okay, so we have the criminal cases and we have a separate court for civil cases. For the civil cases, we are having the, like in the metropolitan, in the case of metropolitan, we have the city civil court, city civil court. Okay, so this is in the case of civil court, civil cases. Okay, in the case of the criminal cases, we are having sessions court. You would have heard about this name already, I hope. Sessions court. Okay, so this is dealing with the criminal cases. So we have the session court. Okay. Similarly, when I talk about the districts and session court, so they are also divided into two categories. We have the criminal courts and we have the civil courts. Okay, civil criminal courts are again called as sessions court. So again you have to write session court, and the civil courts is called as the district courts. Just write it properly. Okay, I'm just writing with a mouse, so I'm not going to write all the things in an expanding manner, so I might use short forms like I used here. You just keep in mind and focus on my whatever I'm speaking, so that you can keep on writing the expanded versions of whatever I'm saying. Okay, so that is a kind of, you can say, the classification and how our courts divided on the various levels. So I hope this one is clear to you. For the people who don't know the difference between the civil and the criminal cases, so the civil cases are the ones which are, which deal with the contracts or torts. Okay, so like basically you have apart from criminal, you have other things like if there is some kind of damage or injury because of something. Okay, like you have other like property and all, so all of that is coming under civil cases. Okay, which is related to the people. And there is another court. Okay, for when we are let me just, yeah, so there is another court that is known as Musif court, MUSISF Musif court. So this is a kind of a court that is relating, that is pertaining to the civil cases, and this is the lowermost court. So the first, it can be approached if the intensity of the case is not that much. Okay, so this is like a lowermost court. Okay, yeah, so Musif court I have discussed. And of course the verdict, this is the lowermost court, and the verdict of this particular court can be appealed in the sub courts. Okay, sub courts appeal can be made for what, for the verdict of the Musif court. And finally, the district judge could be appealed finally, after if the person is not even satisfied with that, so they can contact the district judge. Okay, so this is a kind of a hierarchy that you should know. Actually, it should be, you can say that it is in the kind of ascending order. Okay, from lower to higher. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So if I talk about this criminal cases now, so in the case of criminal cases, the lowermost court, the lowermost criminal case goes to the judicial magistrate. Okay, sorry, what am I writing? Judicial magistrate. Okay, so it is going to judicial magistrate. Just write this down. Okay, the judicial magistrate are also of two kinds, first class and second class. So first it is going to go to the second class, then it is going to go to the first class. Okay, so the lowest most criminal case is going to go to the judicial magistrate, second class. Okay, and what is the kind of a prerequisite for these case? If the punishment is not exceeding 1 year, it is not exceeding 1 year, not more than 1 year, so it should be less than 1 year. Okay, and the rigorous imprisonment should not be there of 1 year. of more than 1 year, and the fine should not be above rupees the fine should not be above rupees 1000. So the cases which, this is like a upper cap, okay, so the cases which are lower than this would be considered by the judicial magistrate second class. Okay, now if the case is higher than this, then it is going to go to the judicial magistrate first class. Okay, so it is going to go to the judicial magistrate first class. What is the prerequisite? The prerequisite is that all the cases that are not exceeding 3 years and a fine of rupees 10,000. Okay, fine. So just note this down, this particular thing down, so that I can move on to the next slide. Then we also have sessions court. Okay, so let me just talk about the sessions court now. Sessions court, I told you under the criminal we have sessions court. So it deals with the cases of murder, okay, and theft. Then we have dacoity, okay, etc. And they also have a power to impose death sentence. They can impose death sentence. They have that power. So a very important thing that you all should know. Fine. So this is about the criminal, like the lower subordinate courts at the lower levels. Okay, so we have discussed about that. Now let me come to a very important, yeah, so we discussed, this thing was all about high court. Okay, so I know that high court should have been clear to you, how they are how they are bifurcated, and how they are classified differently according to their purpose, according to their function. Okay, so you can all look at it properly, and we are complete with the um, information about high court. Now let me start up with another court, the apex court, that is Supreme Court. Very important. Okay, everything is important actually. High court is as important as Supreme Court. So, in our constitution, we have article number 124 that talks about the Supreme Court. Okay, constitution of Supreme Court, it tells about the constitution, how it is constituted. So, it talks about the constitution of Supreme Court. Constitution of Supreme Court. So, how it is constituted? So, there should be one Chief Justice, CJI, Chief Justice of India, plus there should be 7 other judges, 7 other, just a sec, yeah, 7 other judges should be there. Okay, so this is the first thing. And there has been the recent extension in 2019. Okay, 2019 में एक recent extension हुई है इस चीज़ की, that has been increased to CJI plus 33 judges. So you have to know this. Okay, so the bill is known as the bill was called as Supreme Court Number of Judges Amendment Bill. Supreme Court Number of Judges Amendment Bill. Okay, so this was a bill which has increased the number of people from number of the court judges from 7 to 33. Okay, so you should know these things. Okay, it is very important. Now let us talk about the qualifications of this. So qualifications, I hope this color is visible. I think it is dark enough, not a problem. So let us discuss about the qualifications of the judges. So first of all, the citizen of India. Citizen of India is very important in everything. Okay. Second qualification needed is that the person should have been at least 5 years judge of High Court. Person had served as a judge of High Court for at least 5 years. Okay, then we have the next one, that is you can say or statement है ये, or the person would have been for 10 years, at least 10 years of service at as an advocate, of as an advocate of High Court or Supreme Court, High Court or Supreme Court. Okay, so that could also be a possibility. Or, so where does my pen go? I'm just unable to make out sometimes. Or it could be a distinguished jurist, which is now not there. Okay, jurist was earlier there. There was a concept of jury uh, from the British era. Okay, they used to have jury, and when they colonized India, so at that point of time they practiced this jury system where it is made up of some people, and they give the verdicts. Okay, so it gets influenced by the public opinion a lot, because people are themselves sitting. Okay, so they used to make political decisions, or they used to do things that are more beneficial from the eyes of getting public towards the side of the jury. So they used to do all of those things, so that for that reasons this practice is no more there. Okay, because the verdict was very much biased. So in order to counteract that, now this practice, after the Britishers left, this practice has been discontinued. Earlier it was there. Okay, so the hence this statement that or a person should be a distinct a better, a well-known jurist can also be a high court judge. This was a provision earlier, not anymore. Now, yeah, and one more thing, the concept of this jury was not there for the high courts. Okay, it was only there for the Supreme Courts. So this is what you all should know. Now let me talk about the importance of Supreme Court. Very, very important. You should know this. Okay, so the importance of Supreme Court. So when we are talking about the Supreme Court, so it is like the highest court of appeal. Okay, and we all know it. It is the highest interpreter of the Constitution. It gives us the basic structure of Constitution. Okay, legality of any law which is passed by the legislature is ultimately decided by the Supreme Court. So it can be scrutinized in the Supreme Court, and the legitimacy of that is being supervised by the Supreme Court. Also, Supreme Court is called as the guarantor and the protector of the Constitution, of the fundamental right. Not the Constitution, basically, to be more precise, within the Constitution, the fundamental rights. So you should write fundamental rights. Okay, and we can also say that henceforth it Supreme Court is also called as custodian of the Constitution. So you need to move from more specific towards more generic statement. That is the best way. Otherwise, you can do that other way also. It doesn't really matters. Okay, so there are many of the times that people say that Supreme Court is partial. Okay, and there are many times these concerns were there within the country. So we should, I think it is very you can say a nice thing, and I think the apt thing to talk about, that is the safeguards for impartiality. Like, what could be the steps of that could be taken, that in order to ensure the impartiality by the Supreme Court. Although the activism is we can say, like, according to how many suo moto cases are taken, so we can infer that the activism has increased a lot. But if I talk on the grounds of impartiality, so what could be the things that could be done? Okay, like the kind of a suggestions that could be here, like you can consider it as a way forward. Supreme Court judges cannot hold any office of profit after retirement. So this is already mentioned. Okay, there are many of the things that we also think about them. Like the comments part is different. It is like what we think as a person, as the analysis of what we have done. But before that, let us talk about what has been mentioned in the constitution as a practice. Okay, so you should know that firsthand, and then you should give your own opinions if asked. Okay, so Supreme Court judges cannot hold any office of profit. Okay, so they cannot hold any office of profit, any office of profit. They cannot hold that after retirement. Okay, so I have written the whole sentence for you. Okay, now also they cannot practice after retirement. Okay, so they cannot practice, no practice after retirement. After retirement, I'm writing after retirement as AR because many of the things are there. Okay, their peak allowances and salaries cannot cannot be attended towards their disadvantage. Okay, so that is the thing. Allowances are coming from where? The allowances that are provided to them are coming from the Consolidated Fund of India. Consolidated Fund of India. This is something that I discussed in the earlier videos itself. I have discussed about all the different kinds of bills, where I have also discussed about various funds of the government in a very elaborate and a very explanatory manner, and I have created many of the diagrams to make you understand that easily. Just have a look at that video. Okay, and I'll mention that in the description box for you, so that you guys don't have to search. Okay, so you can just have a look at the description box for that particular video, so you'll understand what is Consolidated Fund of India and what are the other things that are there. Okay, and there is another very important provision, that is the removal. Okay, that is regarding the removal. So when I talk about the removal of the Supreme Court, so a Supreme Court judge, so it should not be very easy, of course, otherwise it would be very difficult for the Supreme Court to function. So for that, there is a special provision, there is a special procedure for that, which we are going to discuss. So all of these things suggest that there are certain safeguards for the working, to provide a working environment to the Supreme Court judges in an impartial way. So these are some things that are already there, and you can have a look at that. Okay, so now let me discuss another dimension of ad hoc judges. So when I talk about the ad hoc judges, so these are the judges that are like, you can make out from the ad hoc word itself that these are the judges who are there for a limited period of time on the temporary basis. So this need basically arises when there is a sudden vacancy that is created, and there needs to be certain hearings, important ones, and there is a vacant seat, and then you have to just invite some ad hoc judges, but provided he or she is qualified enough. Okay, so qualification cannot be overlooked. Another thing that we come across is that the retired judges who are sitting in the seatings of the Supreme Court. Okay, the retired judges. What is that thing? Okay, so with the consent of President of India, so there needs to be a consent from President of India. Any retired judge of Supreme Court or Federal Court or High Court judge who has been duly qualified to sit and act as a judge of Supreme Court. So it is an acting position again. Okay, so this is an acting position. It is not going to be a proper position. Instead, it is going to be acting position in during because of whatever reasons, like due to the sudden vacancies, for whatever reasons it is created, a retired judge could be there. Okay, or whatever the circumstances are, if there is like a special committee in at that committees also retired judges are seen. Hmm? Okay, but a very important thing to note is that they are the acting judges and they should not be deemed as a judge of Supreme Court. Okay. So if you can, there are the cases where there has been a huge amount of backlogs already. So in that case, to speedify the process, retired judges are taken into, they are, considered as the acting judges. So these are certain concepts that you need to know, like ad hoc judges, like what are the retired judges doing, even if they are retired, why are they there in the hearings? So you should know about that. Okay, one important term that we call, that is very important, the term is called as court of record. Court of record. Okay, so court of record. So what is the meaning? All the acts and the proceedings are enrolled for perpetual memory and testimony, and the truth of these records cannot be questioned. Okay, so there are all the acts and proceedings that are there. Okay, they are enrolled for the testimony. Like we say that Supreme Court in their earlier judgments have said something. Okay, and that shall be deemed to be the verdict, and if similar cases arises, then in that case those hearings, the verdicts of those hearings would be considered as the verdict of that particular case. Also that could be used as a reference, but it is not that it is binding. But there are like very less instances when Supreme Court is counteract their own earlier verdicts. Okay, so they are recorded as a testimony and they are used for the future cases as well. So there is like this code of court of record. Okay, so this is very important, and this thing has been discussed comprehensively in article number 129. Okay, so you can read upon this article to get to know about this even in more depth. Okay. um and there is another article that is called as article number 215. So this article is also considering High Court as a court of record. Okay, so High Court under this article is also considered as the court of record. Okay, so another important article that you should all know about, that is known as article number 141. Okay, so this article states that all the verdicts of the law, all the laws that are declared by the Supreme Court are to be binding on all the other courts, all the subordinate courts. Okay, so whatever is the verdict, that is going to be the binding one. Okay, so all of the orders that are given by the, all the laws that are passed by the not passed, all the laws, verdicts, and all of the orders that has been there given by the Supreme Court are to be enforced. They are enforceable throughout the territory of India. Okay, it is not limited to any particular state or a particular part of India, but it is enforceable onto the entire territory of India. Okay, so these are certain things that were important in relation to the Supreme Court of India. I would like to also touch upon a topic of appointment of judges, and I'm considering we still have time, so we can complete that. Okay, so appointment of judges. Let me just clear the slide. Clear ink on it, and let me just change the color so that you guys can differentiate easily. Let us take blue. Okay, so discuss about the appointment of judges. I'm just not currently having a pen, otherwise I would have written it very properly. Sorry for this, pardon me for this, but I might get it soon. Currently I cannot get it, so Please bear with me, and I'm just giving you proper auditory references, auditory explanations to everything I'm writing. Okay, so it is not really necessary. I'm just writing the keywords, the key points, and also if something is ununderstandable, so I'll give the like the spelling of that as well. Okay, so don't worry about that. Now let me talk about the appointment. So judges are appointed by the president of India, because this is of course like the topmost position. So they are appointed by the president of India after consultation with uh, people like judges of Supreme Court. After the consultation from them, judges of Supreme Court. So you can say that it is somewhat executive, but a collegiate system is also existing that I shall discuss in a while. So judges of Supreme Court on their recommendation. Okay. Also, the president can deem that the judges shall be appointed till 65 years, which is the current thing. Okay, and it is deemed by the president of India. Okay, so we can say that if president is involved, so it is indirectly saying that executive is having the power to appoint here. Okay, now this particular thing. Okay, just a second. Now, there has been a challenge in the Supreme Court regarding the fact that this recommendation from judges, is it binding or not? Okay, so the question was that is this binding or not? Okay, so this was the question which has been challenged. So earlier, Supreme Court said that it is not binding, but not binding, it said in 1980 in a case called as SP Gupta case. SP Gupta case, it said that it is not really binding and it is just like a consultation process, like an advisory thing. But later, Supreme Court reversed its verdict when in 1993. Okay, in 1993, Supreme Court said that advocate, there is like this advocate, just keep on writing, advocate on record association, on record association, on record association. It's just very difficult to write at the end. Record association versus Union of India. So this was the case, and in this case, the Supreme Court reversed its orders, its previous verdicts, and said that it is the consultation of the judges is binding, so limiting the executive role in that manner and giving more power to the judges. Fine. So this is something that Supreme Court turned into their own favor. Also, they said that the consulting bodies must consist of Chief Justice of India, okay, plus there should be two senior most members, senior most judges, okay, and the CJI is going to be the sole authority to initiate the appointment process. And in case of a conflict between the CJI and the president, CJI's opinion is final. So if there is a case of a clash of opinions of President of India and CJI, whatever their recommendation is, it is not coming in consensus with both the sides. So what is going to happen is that is the decision of Chief Justice of India is going to be the final opinion. Okay, it is going to be the binding opinion. So that was what was said in 1993 Advocate on Record Association versus Union of India case. Okay, now what is the system? What is the system of CJI and you know two other senior most judges? This is what is called as collegium system. See, this is, just let me write it out. COLLEGIUM. I have written it in a zoomed form. Okay, so you guys can make it out. Collegium system, COLLEGIUM. So this is a system which is innovation of the judiciary itself, and you know It is where the judiciary is going to have overriding approach, overriding verdict, overriding decisions and opinions over the president of India, in other words, executive. Okay. Okay, so there was in 1998, what happened is that in 1998 what happened was that there was a presidential reference case, okay, where this advisory which is given by the Supreme Court about the CGI plus 2 senior most judges, that the collegium system. Now this was the clarification by the President of India was asked on the 1993 verdict. So they gave certain clarifications. Sorry, my throat is not well, sorry. So they gave certain clarifications. They said that the verdict of the collegium is going to be the final one. Okay, then CGI will consult four more senior judges. So earlier it was CGI plus 2, so now it has become CGI plus 4. So they are going to consult the four senior most judges along with the CGI. All judges will be given their opinion in writing and will be conveyed to the government. Okay, so whatever would be the opinion, that should be given in writing. Okay, written opinion would be given. Written opinion would be given. Okay, and that should be given in writing and should be conveyed to the government. Okay, the fourth thing that they told was that if the president is having any objection, material evidence against the collegium recommendation, then if there is like a material against them or they are having any objection, then he can ask for the reconsideration. So the path for reconsideration is there, but for only one time. Like if they are asking for reconsideration of the reconsideration of the collegium verdict, so that could be reconsidered, but after the reconsidered decision is there, that is going to be final. So these were certain clarifications that were given in this particular 1998 case, okay, where the president asked for the clarifications. Okay, then in around 2000, what happened in 2000, there is a bill, the bill for national, I have to write this down, national National Judicial Appointment Commission. National Judicial Appointment Commission, also better known as NJAC. So this NJAC was a kind of a bill, okay, that was introduced, okay, and which was not ultimately passed. It said that there should be an equal representation of executive and the judge members. I'm going to discuss about that in detail, because in 2000 it was a bill. Okay, then UPA government was there till 2011, nothing happened. But in 2014, when the NDA government came, so they actually they again put that up, okay, and they actually passed that for like it was called as 121st Amendment Act, Constitutional Amendment Act. Through this, they have created this appointment commission, NJAC. Okay, it is created for the Supreme Court and High Court judges, and also for the transfer of High Court judges. This was to be consulted. Transfer of outmost judges, okay, that particular provision was added unanimously in August 2014. It has been there, it has an impact on the center state relation, of course, okay, because the transfer is somewhat related, okay, like the center and states are intermingled. So that is the thing, okay. So that is something that was done in 2014. Okay, after passing it came into being in 2015. Okay, now it said that the appointment will be decided by the 6 members. So I'll just erase this. Now let us see what happened in 2015, how it was all established. So it said that the bench, okay, or the deciding members are going to be 6 in number. Now what would be the division of these 6 members? From the judiciary and the executive. Okay, so the both of the members should be included, executive as well as the judiciary. Okay, so now let us explore what it was. So in the judiciary there should be CJI plus 2 senior most members, 2 senior most judges. Okay, and from the executive there should be law minister, there should be law minister plus two eminent person who are selected by a committee of PM, Prime Minister. So you can see that this power of 2 eminent people is also lying in the Prime Minister's hand. Okay, and then there should be the leader of opposition also of Lok Sabha. Leader of opposition should also be there. Leader of opposition should also be there. So this was also a thing, and there should be people from SC, ST, OBC, and minority of women. So what actually happens is that one more thing you can analyze here is that it has told that it should be SC, ST, OBC, or slash women. So you can say that, what actually happened is that they started including women of upper caste because there was no caste cap on women. Okay, so they only included women, okay, instead of including people from SC, ST, and OBC. So this also was seen, and this also happened at many of the instances. Okay, then sorry guys, just a minute. Okay, now what happened is that of course it would be challenged by the Supreme Court, right? So in 2015 October, to be more precise, this was again challenged. Okay, and it was a 4:1 verdict, and it said that it is unconstitutional, this amendment act is unconstitutional, and it was put forward that the wisdom of appointment of a judge cannot be shared by the political executive. Okay, they said that it would also compromise on the independence of judiciary. Okay, and judiciary should be kept absolutely insulated and independent from other organs of the government. So this was the arguments that were put forth by the judiciary in this particular verdict. Okay, now after that what happens is that the appointing of the judges is still continuing. Okay, the collegium system is still there, it is still existing. Okay, so also the scope of improvement when there was many of the biased decisions taken by the collegium is seen. Okay, till now we read in the news there are like I think in the previous 1 2 days itself in the news, collegium system was coming into question many other times, but that the issues are not addressed. Okay, there are like transfers which are very questionable which are happening of the judges. So all of that is there, so we can say that collegium system is somewhat practicing this biased behavior which should not be there. And at the same time, if you need to continue the collegium system, then it should undergo reforms. Okay, there should be reforms to make it more impartial. At the same time, NJAC is also a good provision, it could be followed. If it was followed, so it would have been a better I think a better stand to be taken, but I think like whatever the situation till now is that collegium is still continuing. Okay, and it is continuing with the again the CGI plus 4 more senior judges, as I told you. So that is still continuing. Okay, so this was all about the appointment of the judges. Now we shall discuss about the removal of the judges. So okay, so now I shall talk about the removal of judges. Removal of judges. Okay, so how is it happening? So it is actually explained to you in article number 124 4, clause 4. Article 124 4 is dedicated to the process of removal of judges. It states that the judges of the Supreme Court, yeah, so the judges of the Supreme Court can be removed by the President of India after an address by both the houses of the Parliament with a special majority. They need a safeguard, right? So the process would not be easy for sure. So there should be a special majority that is there, which has to be passed by both the houses of the Parliament. Okay, and you can say it is similar to Article 368. Okay, so and the two reasons has been provided that what could be the ground for the removal. So two reasons or the grounds for removal. One could be that there should be a proved misbehavior, a proven misbehavior. And secondly, it could be on the grounds of say two-third members, no, not two-third, sorry, I just mixed it with something else. It is the incapacity. Also you can see that in many of the instances, people, the collegium system recommends the transfer of judges based on incapacity or something like that. So that is also questioned many a times. Okay, so it raises the eyebrows for sure. So also same is the similarly the procedure for the removal of the high court judges is also, this one was the discussion about the Supreme Court, and the high court is also on the similar grounds. Okay, and it is saying that the Parliament, the article 124 4 was this. Okay, right? So article number 124, sorry guys, I'm just a bit not well today. Okay, so I might be that sometimes you might feel that my energy is a bit low, so sorry for that. I'm just not well for the day. So article 124 5, clause 5, it talks about the fact that the Parliament can regulate the procedure for the judges removal. Okay, um let me discuss you the proper act that is there. Okay, so the act is called as Judges Enquiry Act. Sorry, I've just misplaced the J. Judges Enquiry Act of Judges Enquiry Act of 1968. Okay, so what does this act say? So this act is saying that the resolution for seeking the removal, so there are many points. Okay, so first one I'm discussing, the resolution for seeking the removal for the judges should be introduced in the either house of the Parliament. Okay, um, if it is introduced in Lok Sabha, so at least 100 Lok Sabha MP, at least 100 Lok Sabha MP should support that. Okay, if it is there passed, it has been introduced into the Rajya Sabha, so in that case at least 50 MP should support that motion. Then secondly, there should be a 14 days prior notice that needs to be given. 14 days prior notice that should be given, that is important. Okay, then thirdly, the presiding officer can reject the resolution if required in admission stage itself. So in the admission stages only, the presiding officer, speakers, sorry guys, sorry, presiding officer can reject the that resolution. Okay, also the presiding officer should appoint 3 members of the judicial, they should appoint 3 members from the Judicial Commission Keep on writing, guys. I'm taking the time to write it for all of you, otherwise I would have just spoken for the hours and hours and I wouldn't be able to write and the video would have been shorter. But if I'm doing the hard work, so you should also do it. Commission. Okay, so there is a judicial commission, so there should be a member of the judicial commission should also look into the allegations, and it should be headed by a serving SC judge. So the head should be a serving Supreme Court judge, and the second member can be the serving High Court judge also. The third member can be a jurist, which is a jurist, advocate with a great repute could be included now. Okay, so all of these things should be done. Okay. Okay, so this was all about the removal of the judges. So we have completed all the processes of Supreme Court, High Court, and I hope you understood it very well. I'm going to create a separate video for the subordinate courts. I'm not going to cover it in this one. Okay, although I've already given you some idea about them, and I will discuss that completely from the scratch in another video. I'm going to dedicate that video particularly to that. So this is the video that I'm going to end here only. I hope you understood it well, whatever I discussed today. And if you did, just leave a like, guys, and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe. Just go right now, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. Oh, I left her. Sorry. Subscribe, guys. Okay, just go right now. Subscribe, please, please. It is very essential for me. Thank you so much, guys. Have a very nice day, and I'll be back with yet another video, which is going to be a blast. Okay, for sure, and my energy level are going to be up for sure. Thank you so much, guys. Have a very nice day. Bye.